Why is everybody buying and praising this capture card? Well, basically because it's an Elgato Cam Link with the same performance, but for 1/10 of the price. I bought this thing for $19, no joke. I've seen it a little bit more expensive. I've seen it even cheaper. This is crazy. So should you actually buy this thing? Well, I'm gonna give a quick overview of this product and then go over its performance so I can help you make an informed decision. So first of all, what is this? This is one of those new mystery HDMI video capture cards that really started springing up out of nowhere in like mid 2020. The details are pretty murky on who actually manufactures these. This one is from BlueAVS, but there's a bunch of different sellers that are selling like this same card on Amazon, and like there's no actual like logo like on the like device or the box itself. They just put their sticker on it. So who knows who's actually manufacturing this? If you guys know the lore, let me know. So this is a video capture device. It can input 4K 30 frames per second maximum into this HDMI slot, and it connects through USB. It's actually USB 2.0 it works with, and it outputs 1080 30 frames per second. And you can't change it. I tried to change it, it didn't work. There's no pass-through functionality either, so you're gonna have to play this game on your actual computer monitor. So let me demonstrate how it works. All you have to do is add this as a video capture source in OBS, and then you're ready to go. You'll probably want to hear the game's audio as well, so right click the BlueAVS capture card, scroll down to audio device, make sure you're using the digital audio interface or whatever your capture card shows up as, and then on audio output mode, output desktop audio. And now in OBS, the desktop audio that you're recording is going to be from the capture card. And make sure that your desktop audio device matches up with whatever speakers you're using, or like if you're using your monitor, just make sure to pick the right monitor. Gameplay. So overall, the quality of the footage is actually really good. The image is pretty sharp, you know, because it's 1080. If I put some stills like right next to the Elgato HD60S, which is, you know, another 1080 capture card, they look pretty much identical. So this thing is definitely doing its job. I tried this with the PS4 Pro. I tried this with the Nintendo Switch. The only thing I wasn't really able to test is the trying to put in 4K 60 frames per second, because my PS4 Pro, it only has games that are actually 4K 30 frames per second. And I tried to like loop my PC and put the 4K 60 from my PC there, but like it wouldn't really run right because I had to like play the game on my PC and record in OBS at the same time. So it didn't really work out. But I also tested with my camcorder. It's 1080p 60 frames per second, and it looked just the same as the Elgato HD60S. So far so good. This thing's looking really good, but now I need to get into the 3 shortcomings of this device. So the 3 problems with this device are input delay, frame rate, and HDR support. So I keep on reading comments about people saying, oh, this is so low latency. And it's like, when I was playing, it felt like I was in like maybe 6 or 7 frames of input delay if we're talking about like 60 frames per second. So we would put that to milliseconds, maybe like 100 milliseconds or something like that. I tried to play Tekken 7, a fighting game, and you have to have like, you know, frame tight inputs. Wasn't working out. I was getting bodied by the CPU, and I was like, come on, like I can't land any combos. The CPU's going ham. So I was like, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm just terrible. I tried to play Need for Speed. I was driving like I was like mad faded. It was crazy. I was just like laughing the whole time I was doing it. It was crazy. For some games, it doesn't really matter. Like if you're playing like Pokemon or something, you can't really feel it. And see, for most capture cards, this isn't like a thing. This doesn't really matter, because if you have like a few frames of input delay from your preview window, it's like, who cares? That's why you have the HDMI outside of the capture card for pass-through, so it can pass through completely lag-free to the monitor that you're playing on. But since there's no pass-through functionality, you're gonna be playing straight from the monitor that your computer's on, so yeah, it's kind of a problem. Now, if you're using a camera like a DSLR or like a camcorder or something, this is actually not that bad at all, because the delay is so small. Like it's less than the Logitech Brio itself, because the Logitech Brios, when I'm using, I have to offset the audio by like 150 milliseconds to like get it in sync. But with this, let me just play a clip for you. All right, now this is the Canon Vixia HFR 800 camcorder. It's connected to my Elgato HD60S, and the microphone that I'm using is the Razer Siren Mini. This is connected to my computer. So, all right, now I'm recording with the Razer Siren Mini. This is the Canon Vixia HFR 800 camcorder, and it's connected to the HDMI video capture device. And yeah, this is what it sounds like. I just got the Razer Siren Mini. So yeah, you can barely tell the difference with the lip syncing with the HDMI video capture card versus the Elgato HD60S. The Elgato HD60S is obviously like a little bit tighter, but it's still pretty good if you're just using like a camera. So the second problem is frame rate. This is very self-explanatory. This only does 30 frames per second. Now there are a lot of people that only upload YouTube videos at 30 frames per second. They buy cameras that only do 30 frames per second. In fact, my Brio right now is at 4K. It can only do 30 frames per second max at 4K. Now when you're playing games, obviously it looks really choppy, especially if you're playing a game that runs at 60 frames per second. I put up some footage here so you can see. Some games that are 30 frames per second, like Horizon Zero Dawn, they have like this motion blur. They add a lot of motion blur to their 30 frames per second footage so that it kind of like smooths together. So you can't really notice it as much. But if you're playing like something like Tekken 7, they got rid of like all the motion blur in that game. So it's just a smooth experience because the frame rate's really good at 60 frames per second. But if you're looking at 30 frames per second, it's really choppy, really hard to play it, really hard to watch it. The third problem with this capture card is there's no HDR support. I know it says that it supports 8-bit, 10-bit, 12-bit, but I couldn't do HDR. Like my PS4 was like, nah. All right, so now for my verdict, who do I recommend this capture card for? I recommend this for people who have real cameras like DSLRs, mirrorless cameras, camcorders, and you record at 30 frames per second, you're fine with that. You just want to put it in your computer, connect to Zoom, video conference, even make YouTube videos. If you want 1080p 30 frames per second, this thing does the job very well. I obviously do not recommend this for anyone who wants 60 frames per second or higher. There are actually other variants of this card though that I'm gonna be looking into because now I'm like hooked on these. But this specific one, if you're looking for 60 frames per second, not gonna work. If you're looking for HDR, not gonna work. And if you're gonna game on this, I know that there's like gaming all on the advertisement of the Amazon product page. People keep talking about like showing gameplay with it. This is not for gaming. Sorry. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next review.